off your engine!
Toy Fan 123 says, I got this deal with my car that I get free oil changes. How can I make sure that they're actually changing the oil? That's a very good question, yeah? Well, what you want to do is, before you go, get a white, clean paper towel. Check your oil, wipe it off. Save that in a plastic bag. You can see how dark it is. After they change the oil, do the same thing. Put the dipstick, wipe it off. It should be clear. If it isn't, they didn't change the oil. And the filter, my advice before they change it, get a black felt pen. Put an X on your oil filter. See if the X is still there when you get it back. I've had customers do that, and sometimes the X is still there. But that's a good way of checking it. That's a good point. You want to double check people. You can't trust people these days, especially if they're doing something for free. Of course, you know, as they change the oil, they're going to try to sell you a bunch of other crap too. Oh, you need filters, you need this, you need that. It's a scam to get you to come in so they can start selling you. But if you're smart and you just get the oil changed, you know, and you make sure they change the oil, what the heck, why not? Well, if you saw my video the other day about the Dodge Charger and the engine going bad because the cam was going bad, well, here's why they're going bad. It's because they were designed wrong. They move where they put the cam further away from the crank, and it has serious lack of lubrication. Now, if you want to find everything about how they designed it wrong and what went wrong, you got to check out Uncle Tony's Garage. Uncle Tony's Garage. The guy has this fantastic video just showing exactly how they designed that new engine wrong, the third generation Hemi engine, that moving the cam further away from the crank. It is a serious lack of lubrication, and they put some lube tubes inside the engine that even block some of the lubrication from splashing on the cam. Watch the video. If you can handle a 15-minute long video, it is an excellent video. Uncle Tony's Garage. The guy knows his stuff. He's showing you what I've been saying for years, that Chrysler makes crap. And this design was crap. They designed it for more power, but they designed it so they break down. The cams keep going out on those things. And of course, Chrysler says they don't know why. Well, if they want to know why, watch Uncle Tony's video. Basically, they designed the thing wrong. It has a serious lack of lubrication on various parts of the cam, so they wear out. And of course, you know, they're not giving anybody engines free or anything. They'll never admit that they designed the things wrong. But he explains the whole thing in total logic, showing how the serious lack of lubrication is going to make them always fail, especially when they are doing a lot of idling and low speed. The faster they go, the oil seems to sling around better. So I guess the Hemi makes a good race engine if you're just racing all the time as fast as you can go. But if you're driving it in normal places, or like the police, idling that Hemi engine for long periods of time, it leads for disastrous failure from lack of lubrication because the cam was designed wrong. Check out Uncle Tony's Garage's video that he's got on why the Hemi engine fails. It's an excellent video. The guy knows his stuff. And it's quite interesting, too. Brandon Barrera says, would it be possible to get an entirely new type of transmission for my car? It has a horrible automatic transmission. Could I put a standard transmission in it? All right, well, anything's possible. The thing is, if you have a certain year, model, make car, and it has an automatic transmission, if that company made that same vehicle also in a standard, yes, you could convert it to a standard transmission. It would be a giant pain in the butt. They have different mounts. They have different software in the computer. You would have to put in a clutch pedal. You'd also have to find a place to put the gear shift on it. I mean, it would be a royal pain. It can be done if you really wanted to. I mean, if you want to go as far as people have gone, like in Cuba, where they had no money and anything to fix things, but they had various types of old worn out cars. They got things like 50 Chevrolets that have Mercedes-Benz diesel engines they threw into them. You can do anything if you really have the time and energy to do it. But, you know, it is an awful lot of work. Even if, say, you had a Honda Odyssey van with their horrible automatic transmissions, you want to put a standard transmission in it. Honda makes a standard transmission. It's still an awful lot of work to convert it the other way. You got to change an awful lot of stuff, including the computer and the software. So it's not a cheap, easy thing to do. Manny OG says, what's the best insurance for a newcomer? Okay, well, as far as I'm concerned, insurance companies are generally just peas inside the same pod. They're taking your money and they want to pay out less money out for claims than they take in from your insurance premiums. It's a business, right? So they're always into paying you as little as possible for a wreck, or not paying at all and saying you're not covered, and keeping as much as they can for themselves. In that respect, from my experience, your best bet is to use real established companies so that if you do need a claim, you won't find out that they're fly-by-nights and they're not going to pay anything. And look for one of those with the lowest possible premium you can get for the coverage that you want. That's the way to go. Because they're all insurance companies. They take your money and they spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year advertising on TV and the media telling you how great they are. But their bottom line is they want to take as much money in from the people buying policies and pay out the smallest amount possible. So stick with companies that have names, research them a little, and go for the lowest price you can find. That's my philosophy. It's what I've always done my whole life. I used to stick with one. It was State Farm, and then I found out they'd been screwing me over for years. So now, every year, I just look around. And I price. I go on my computer. They got lots of apps. And then I call them up, try to find the best deal I can. And the next year, I pay up front for a whole year for what I think I can get the best deal with. I have no loyalty in any of this stuff because they're all basically the same peas in a pod of seeing how much money they can take in and how little they can pay out. So as long as they're a real company, it's been around a while, go for the price. That guy too says, I'm thinking about getting a used Jeep Patriot. What do you think? I wouldn't buy it. Realize the Jeep Patriot was one of the first Jeeps made that's one of the real cheaply made Jeeps. They wanted to mass produce them cheaper and really start selling it out. That was when Jeep really started to go downhill seriously. Of course, since Fiat took over, they'd gone even further down, but the Jeep Patriot was the first really cheaply made one where they're mass producing them and seeing how many they can sell as fast as they possibly could. In respect to that, when Ford bought Jaguar a long time ago, they don't own them anymore, when they did, they wanted to make a cheaper Jaguar so they could sell a whole bunch of them, and it was basically a car based on, I believe it was a Ford Contour platform. It was an absolute pile of crap, and they ended up selling Jaguar and losing a bunch of money years later, and that's kind of the Jeep Patriot. The lower quality, I wouldn't buy one if I were you, if you value your money. Well, here's an interesting one. Dyson, the company, of course, that makes things, they're making those vacuum cleaners, electric vacuum cleaners, is revealing the inside of their electric car, even though it's canceled and they're never going to build any of them. They didn't even give it a name. They just called it the Dyson electric car. Dyson said they designed their car from the ground up. They didn't share parts with anybody else. Well, maybe they should have, because they're not going to be making the things. Sometimes you have to put too much money into design it, as they say. It's not a good idea to reinvent the wheel. The wheel was invented a long time ago. It's what you do with that wheel, not that you have to start all over again and make a different type of wheel. But regardless, this thing was going to be 16 feet long, which is longer than a Chevy Equinox, and they pushed the wheels out as far as possible to give it a planted look so it's stable. They were planning on making a 3-row SUV with room for 7 passengers, and every single control was there on a steering column with a heads-up display projected on the windscreen so you didn't take your eye off the road. It was a very interesting design. And it was going to make 536 horsepower and have a range of 600 miles, even though it weighed 5,730 pounds. But they never made one. They're never going to make one. So it was an interesting exercise in fantasy by a vacuum cleaning company that thought they might clean up in the electric car market, but instead they failed. Here we go, an expert agrees with me. It turns out that self-driving cars may only prevent 1/3 of the crashes. Instead of being perfect and preventing most, it may only knock off 1/3 of the crashes that can occur on a highway. Researchers are saying that the way autonomous vehicles are being programmed, since they're mimicking the way people drive, it may only stop 1/3 of the accidents. And that's because 2/3 of the crashes are from causes like bad judgment, incorrect assumptions, what other people are going to do, inadequate evasive measures, and the software they're putting in these cars presently doesn't fix those issues. They discovered that sampling 5,000 crashes, that only a fraction of those injuries were occurred sensing and perception areas that self-driving cars are able to bypass. I'm going to stop this kind of stuff. You're better off with stronger safety standards for the cars that they're presently making, because if they proceed with this, what they call reckless deployment of autonomous cars, it can put people in harm's way because it's not the correct software for what's needed. And like I always say, if you want to have autonomous cars, fine. They have to have their own lane, because if they're all talking to each other and it works, fine. But these things cannot predict what human beings are going to do. And if you have some autonomous cars driving around, now other people driving their own cars, the mix is a deadly mix. It might even cause more crashes because people might know how people go, oh, there's a crazy guy up there, I'll get away from him. The machine might go right up to him and not know what to do, can't comprehend what's happening, or a person sees, that person's probably drunk. I'm either going to slow down and let him go ahead, or I'm going to speed up and pass him so I don't have to deal with him anymore. Well, I guess the machines can't figure that stuff out themselves yet. So even some of these experts are saying it's not going to save everybody. This isn't a cure-all, and it might actually hurt more people if it's implemented too early. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.